Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Dr. Leslie Rogers with Mental Health Talk. The purpose of Mental Health Talk is to promote ongoing dialogue and awareness around mental health and well-being. How is everyone today? Thank you for coming. Today we have a special guest, Stan Richards, author, mindset coach, international speaker, and award-winning philanthropist. How are you, Stan?
I'm great, Dr. Rogers. How are you?
Good, awesome. I'm so glad that you're here and can't wait to hear pieces of your story.
Yes, well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be with you this evening.
I'm excited to have you here. Let me tell you all a little bit about Stan. Stan Richards is a proud Washington, D.C. native and experienced professional who rose from the streets of D.C. to becoming a multi-million-dollar philanthropist. He is now dedicated to helping people thrive in business and in life by developing a no limits mindset. Tell us about that. What's that about, a no limits mindset?
Well, I tell you, Doc, a no limits mindset, it just simply means that, we can do anything that we want to. I always say, if you can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. So if you think about it, Doc, we are God's highest creation. And he said in his word to have dominion over the earth, to rule over the earth. And we can be, do, and have anything that we want, And so when I became conscious and aware of this, I just put it to the test. And now I'm a living proof that you can go from your bus to the Bentley with no more limits.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that mindset has to change though, right?
Oh, absolutely. Nothing changes until we begin to change the way we think. And that's all I did was reprogram my mind to focus on the things that is working in my life and the things that I want versus the things that was not working in my life and the things that I don't want.
Yeah. And I bet that wasn't easy. Easy.
No, it's a muscle. And I always say, and I teach now that change, in my opinion, only happen in two ways. It comes from a constant spaced repetition of doing something over and over to reprogram the subconscious mind, or change comes from an emotional impact. Like, for me, it was in 2005 when my brother got sick. That was an emotional impact for me. And it triggered me to really refocus and become aware of the things I want.
Yeah. So what you're saying is experiences, especially negative experiences, can get in the way of growth and development. And you have to change that mindset, get back on track.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, it comes down to the individual.
Yeah.
And for me, that was very traumatic for me, my brother getting sick and losing him to pancreatic cancer. And it really changed my life. It got me to start thinking about how I was living. And I started looking at the behaviors and how I was living. And I was just conditioned that way through genetics, mama, and environment. So I had this mindset, the most I could ever make is $100,000 a year. So that mindset, that limited mindset, that's what my focus was every year. And for 18 years, I drove the bus, and that was my goal, to hit that number. Until I had that traumatic impact and things shift, and I know that, I can make millions of dollars.
Yeah. And you're going to talk a little bit about that in your book. So Stan is the author, guys, the author of a book, From the Bus to the Bentley, No More Limits, where you take readers on a journey of your life experiences that include poverty and addiction, on to where you are now, the senior vice president of 5 Links, and so much more. So when you wrote this book, what made you, how did you know that you had a voice, that you had such a powerful voice that you could, put it in a book and it could change so many lives?
Yeah, well, I tell you, I was blessed, and I always say that, I was operating unconsciously competent. So when I went from the bus to the Bentley, I embarked on an opportunity in a wealth trend, and basically got in front of a major wealth trend and was able to do well and retire, me and my wife. And we traveled the world and did some amazing things. And then, after you've done all of that, those types of things, and you've driven Bentleys and Range Rovers, it all gets old. And I started thinking about, there has to be more in life than this,
Yeah.
And, when I got still, and what God showed me is that, there is much more. We have a responsibility to give back and pour back, because, I always say now that success without significance is the ultimate failure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I started thinking, and God just laid on my heart to write this book. And he said, I want you to put your life story in this book. And I don't want you to sugarcoat anything. Put it all in the book. And that's what I did. I did it with my knees shaking and my teeth chattering. I was scared to death because my thinking was nobody cares about my story. Nobody would read my book. Why would they buy my book? All of these limiting beliefs, right? And I just had to push through all of that. And I did in 2011, was blessed to write the book, and I was blessed to sell over 30,000 copies all over the world.
Excellent. So let's go back a little bit, because your book tells a powerful story of struggle and healing, right? And that's what you talk about in your book. So let's go back a little bit. You say that you struggled with substance abuse and mental health. How was mental health handled in your household growing up?
Well, it wasn't really talked about, and I didn't even really understand how it affected me until I became an adult. My mom, back in the 60s, left my father, who was very abusive back then, and she took 7 kids, Doc, by herself and raised us. And, she went through a lot of mental and physical abuse with my father. And then for me, indirectly, it affected me years later because I had so much resentment against my father, and, abusing my mother and things like that. And later on, I was blessed to forgive him and move past it, because he has his own journey and his own story. But it really affected me in the areas of, I never really seen many positive Black families and wholesome families growing up in the hood. And I wanted that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I asked you that question because I think it's important, because, especially being a Black male, it's kind of difficult for some to speak openly about mental health. And then when we go back to the families when we were children, like you said, it really wasn't addressed. It really wasn't talked about.
Right. And then, once I actually, I graduated from high school, and I talked about in the book, I was blessed to get a good government job, with the Bureau. And then what came with that, Doc, was a lot of ego and arrogance. And back then in the early 80s, we was partying like rock stars, the Chapter 3 and clubs like that, East Side. And that's when they had the big drug epidemic in DC. And I started using.
Is that when you were first introduced?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Coming through high school, I never did drugs. It was when I actually got out into the world of work and got my first apartment on Carl Place Southeast. I thought I had made it. And I thought I had my good government job. And so I started partying like a rock star. And it started with marijuana, and then led to using cocaine. And that was my drug of choice from 83 to 87. I was a functional addict.
And research shows that marijuana is a gateway drug to other drugs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, it goes back to those triggers, because, I have a family history of alcoholism and drug addiction. And so I remember, I talked about in my book, my uncle told me, he said, don't touch it, because all you got to do is like it, and it'll make a slave out of you. And I thought back then, oh, I can overcome anything. So I started playing with it, and then, you know, really got caught up and became a slave to it for 4 years.
Yeah. And Stan, what was that pivotal moment in your life that you had to say to yourself, this is it. I have to, you know, move on from this, or it's going to kill me.
I'll tell you this quick story. I talked about it in the book. What happened was back in 87, I actually left the bureau and went on the police department thinking I'm going to get myself together. How crazy is this mentally? If I became a DC police officer, I'll stop using. Well, that just made it even worse. And I went through the academy, and I actually got fired from the police department back in 87. And what came with that was I hit rock bottom. I had just bought a brand new Corvette with my retirement money from the bureau.
Right.
And I lost everything pretty much and hit rock bottom. And now I always share, Doc, when you're at your lowest point in life, that's when you're most powerful, because you can see nothing but truth at that point. Nothing has value except for the value that you give it. So I hit rock bottom, and I was able to really see my truth. And I started out as a security guard at the Grand Hyatt downtown, and I worked my way back. And then when I met you, I became a promoter in the city and did well doing that. And God delivered me from the addiction. Yeah. I'll give him all praise.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with substance use, talk to me about family. How did it impact your family at all during the process of addiction?
Well, most of my mom knew, but my mother was a prayer warrior, and she knew. But one of the things I love, I'm so grateful for my mom, is she allowed us to fail, and she just she prayed for me. I mean, she knew that I was caught up because I was still living over in Brentwood, and she's seen me partying and drinking and drugging, and she knew it, but she just prayed. Her faith was so strong that God would turn it around, and ultimately He did. But I had to go through that whole journey. And the crazy thing about it, growing up in the hood, we seen people OD. I seen people get strung out on drugs. But, somehow in your mind, you think that you can overcome this. You're stronger.
Yeah.
You get caught up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you talked about that, because let me tell you guys, the viewers that's watching, in the Black communities, in our communities, when we talk about we didn't go to mental health, we didn't talk about mental health because our families were prayers, right? They prayed, they went to church and talked about it in church, right? We didn't go to therapists.
Right.
Yeah, there were no diagnoses back then in our families, right?
No.
And that was the way. That was our therapy, prayer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had good support system going through that process.
Oh, absolutely. I had a praying mama and my sisters and brothers. We were very close knit, and they all supported me along the journey. And even when I lost my job and hit rock bottom, they were there for me. And she brought us up real close, and I pushed through it, through the grace of God.
Yeah. And you openly, so there was like one incident after another. You talked about your substance abuse and recovery, right? And then you talked about a history of medical conditions as well, such as a history of cancer, and you were vocal about that. Let's talk about that for a little bit. So you said you had a family history?
Yeah. My grandfather had prostate cancer. And I had prostate cancer. My brother had pancreatic cancer. He passed away in 2014, Tim. And so there's a pipeline of this of addiction and cancer in our family. Yes. So for me, once I was diagnosed, what came out of that, and it was so amazing because I was diagnosed like 60 days after we buried my brother. I was diagnosed, and I was 53 years old, and I had never been to the hospital a day in my life. And so I started looking at, again, going deeper, like, where's this coming from? And it was, in my opinion, it was the food addiction. Like, I ate bad and drank and drugged and all those things for all of those years. And that stuff catches up with you as you begin to get older. And prostate cancer is very prevalent in African-American males. So I did a live yesterday talking about how we need to know our numbers and how we need to take our health very seriously. So now that I'm a big advocate, I started a whole movement called Healthy, Wealthy, Wise. Because now that I get it, it makes no sense for you to go out and make $1 million and then you're sick, you can't enjoy the money.
Right.
So now at 59 and a half, I'm in the best shape of my life.
Good. Excellent. And I'm glad that you got through that. And I wanted you to talk about that because I wanted you to talk about so that people could hear how you turned that into a positive experience, right?
Here's what I can share with our audience tonight, Doc, is that whenever you share your story and your journey, what happens is you inspire others.
Yep.
You get power. So I got power over the addiction. I got power over the healing from cancer. And God gets the glory. But we've been taught and trained, you don't want nobody to know that you got diabetes or you got a high blood pressure or you got breast cancer. At the end of the day, bless someone else with your story. So now I'm a big advocate. And I help a lot of men who is going through prostate cancer and who have gone through prostate cancer. You know what I mean? And I'm able to share my story and my journey with them is that it's not a death sentence. It's just all about becoming aware and now getting in tune with your body and changing your relationship with food. That's all I did. I had to change my relationship with food. Now today, I eat to live versus living to eat.
Yeah, making a lifestyle change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I praise you for speaking up because, again, I like to hear men speak up about mental health because they don't do it, right? Because of that mindset of if I speak up about a certain thing, then it may make me seem weak, a sign of weakness, seem like a sign of weakness, right? Yeah,
I have a great support group. I got a group of 9 brothers that I've been praying. We've been prayer partners for the last 10 years. And these are all around the way guys. These ain't no super holy dudes. These are around the way guys that go through struggles. And so when I'm going through my struggle with overcoming the cancer and things like that, I've had a great support group. And so I share with men now, it's okay to open up and to share your story with other people because you don't know who you can bless when you do that. So that's why, I decided to really open my life up and to really share my story with the world because it really benefits someone else.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad to hear you say that because it only takes one person to open up and share and then others will follow, right? It only takes one person to open up about their experiences and then others will follow. Right. Now, you have a nonprofit organization, Richards Group Foundation, a nonprofit organization established to provide scholarships, events, and resources to youth and designed to teach them entrepreneurship and to provide them critical life skills. And I'm glad we're talking about mental health because as a mentor, you also teach these young youth, it's okay to talk about experiences that you're going through. It's okay to talk about struggles that you're going through because we collectively as men or as a community can, kind of help each other and be support systems for each other. So tell us a little bit about the foundation that you have.
Oh my God. I love the Richards Group Foundation. Sharice and I, we started the foundation in 2011. And again, after, chasing all the stuff, the success and the cars, it all gets old. You only can eat a steak so many ways. So, we decided to start the Richards Group Foundation in honor of my mother, who was a prayer warrior with everybody in the hood over at Brentwood, right? So we started the nonprofit to really pour back into kids and to help them to see beyond their circumstances. Huge for me because we started, and I'm still over in Brentwood. It's called Brooklyn Manor now, over in Northeast. And I do believe that our community is our responsibility. So it's my responsibility as God promote me to go back and to pour back into our kids. And here's what's so powerful about it, Doc. When I'm over there and I'm pouring back into these kids, all they want to know is it possible? And they need to see someone who look like Stan and who look like Dr. Rogers, who have made it. They don't see that.
Right.
So these kids, when I work with them, I really get them to open up. And now they start to believe that, you know what, I can go from my bus to the Bentley and I can come up out of here. And I'll tell you, it's so gratifying. Every time I go back and I'm able to spend time with these kids, and it's better than I can't imagine it. It's a feeling, it's an anointing when I'm over there and I'm sharing with the kids because you know they need us. You know, and if you think about it, what if you know every one of us who came up out the hood went back at least 1 hour a week or a month? Imagine what our community would look like.
Right.
You know, and so with the foundation, I've been blessed over the last, because I won the Hoodie Awards with Steve Harvey.
I see. I was going to get to that. A 2-time Steve Harvey Neighborhood Award.
Yeah. So I was blessed to do that and to win that award. And so we've taken kids on cruises, tours to New York. We took the kids one year, a couple of years ago. We took the kids on a tour of DC. These kids have never come outside of Brentwood. They don't know the history of Washington DC. So we rented a big bus and we took them on a tour of DC. And we took them to New York. Blew their freaking mind. They've never seen anything like this, right? And so my thinking is, if I could just touch one. You know, like somebody touched me and somebody touched you to go from your bus to your bed. And that's what it's really all about. So the foundation, I'm forever committed to the foundation and my old neighborhood first.
Yeah.
So we pour back. We've been over in Brentwood since 2011, pour back into those kids.
Right. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I just see how you get so excited, and I'm excited to hear you talk about it because you're absolutely right. You know, it's the lack of exposure that these kids don't have. And when they have people like you, Stan Richards and Michael Morgan, who was on here a couple of weeks ago with his nonprofit organizations, A Few Good Mentors, people like you all and other people that give them that exposure, right, to things that they would have otherwise thought that they couldn't reach for. Now they see, well, Dr. Rogers is doing it, Stan Richards is doing it. So maybe we're in a not so good situation right now, but that doesn't mean we can't reach for our goals or reach for our dreams, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That made me a bit of emotional just for a second.
Doc, if you think about it, you know, I teach the kids. When people ask me, how'd you do it? You know, think about it, Doc. We seen something or we hear something that take us to the next level, right? I talk about in the book how I used to sneak on the back of the bus, hit the back door, go downtown, walk around F Street, Garfinkel's, right? All the stores, and see all the people who didn't look like me, and they had family, they had ice cream, they had hot dogs, and I wanted that. So I seen something. And I kept saying, you know what? How did they get it? You know, growing up, I thought that Black people were cursed and white people had favor. And growing up, I wanted to be white because I thought that they were favored. Yeah. Right? And I seen something, and I just kept moving towards success. And that's why I teach people. If you can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. All you have to do is begin to move towards it.
Yeah.
Take full responsibility for your life. That's all you and I did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't blame my father. I didn't blame the white guy or the government. Okay. I just said, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah. But it's figuring out how to
Right. Right.
step out of that environment that you're in. And it's so interesting, Stan, because you're right. We even think about even how you define money and profession, and those definitions for that is different in different. There's a cultural aspect to it. There's a cultural aspect is how we grew up and how we define money versus how other cultures may define money, how we spend money and how we use money versus other cultures, how they spend money and how they use money, right? There's differences. There's even differences how we define family, and the family goals and values and things of that sort is different amongst different cultures. And in our communities, again, we handle things a bit differently because, we have to be the strong ones in our family, or we have to be the support systems in our family, that make it so some of these kids don't have support systems.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. But you know what? I still say, well, I'll be your support system. I'll be your support system, and trust me, they always texting me too. So I got about 50 kids, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing I want to share too. A lot of times when you spoke about money, and a lot of times, coming out the hood and coming from lack, we've been trained to chase money and chase careers and chase titles. So I tell people all the time in my book, I talk about how I used to work 100 hours a week at Metro to make $100,000 a year to buy a big old house in Bowie. But in reality, I was still in the hood driving the bus, and my car was always parked at the bus garage.
Mm-hmm.
My wife didn't like me and my kids didn't know me because I was chasing $100,000 a year, and I had no time.
Mm-hmm.
I had no real life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So think about how dangerous that is. What's the use of me making $100,000 a year and I lose my wife and my kids?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like you were trying to make an identity for yourself.
Yeah. Well, because to me, that's what success looked like. So again, growing up in the hood, if you got a good Metro job and you bought your nice Mercedes and you had a nice house in Bowie, then you were considered successful.
Mm.
In reality, I was just broke on a higher level because I was institutionalized on the job and I was living there, and my wife didn't like me and my kids didn't know me because I was always on the bus.
So how did you make that change?
Through traumatic impact, right? When my brother got sick in 2005, Tim, I got in the mirror and I asked God to show me. He said, well, this is how you living, Stan. You got the big old house, the biggest one you can find. You got the Mercedes off the 20, smoked out with the check engine light on. Y'all know how we do, right? And you're trying to look good for people who don't like you and people who don't know you.
Right.
I was like, wow. And that's when I began to really be honest with myself.
Yeah.
And you can't change something until you become honest with yourself.
Right. You're absolutely right. You can't. You have to be honest with yourself. Because sometimes I think it goes back to we don't like ourselves. We don't like who we are in that moment.
Right. Yeah, and it's truth that sets us free. So I had to be honest with, okay, dude, what are you doing? Okay, you got all of this stuff, but you broke, you making 100, but you spending 120.
Right.
Because nobody taught me how money works and how to invest money, and so I live the scarcity mentality. Oh, you'll be broke again. So you just constantly chasing it. And you become a slave to it.
Yeah. So teaching these kids in your nonprofit how to change that mindset and how to learn how to invest and how to, define funds or financial assets differently than how we grew up, right? And that's what you do for these children. And let me ask you, in your book, if you could pick out one thing in your book that would, as an inspiration for others in your book, what would that be?
That would be that no matter what you want, you can achieve it. That's what this book is all about. This book is for the roundaway person like me who graduated, couldn't read. It's for the person who is in corporate America, who got, like my wife, more degrees than the thermometer, right? But still not living their true purpose, right? I always say education is great, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But education is not enough in the 21st century. Mm-hmm. You still have to go out and tap your talents, mm-hmm. right? Because I know plenty of people that got the degrees, but then they're still struggling.
Yeah.
Because they hid behind education came easy to them. Education was hard for me because, you know, every time I went to school, I was hungry. So I graduated, couldn't read. But because I applied myself and I went to work and I taught myself how to read, I taught myself entrepreneurship. In 2011 and 2013, I was the keynote speaker at Cardozo High School, the same school I graduated, couldn't read. Mm-hmm. Right? So basically, you know, the gist of my book is that you can be, do, and have anything that you want. Mm-hmm. If you're willing to get out your own way.
Yeah.
And find someone that you can connect with to help you to go to that next level.
Yeah. I like that. If you're willing to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
I like that. Because we're often in our own ways. We often get in the way of our growth and development, either because of negative thoughts about we can't achieve something. So it interferes with our growth.
Yeah, negative thoughts and limiting beliefs. So that's why your environment is so important. So, because if you're in an environment around people who talk negative, are negative, don't want anything more, then you're the sum total of those 5 people. And then you got the genetics, your family. You know, think about it. We're born in this world naked and ignorant. We don't know nothing. And then as we start to grow up, we start saying, oh, I want that house. I want that car. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. And then people start telling you, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah. And words are powerful.
Yes.
Words are powerful, right? But I believe that our words to ourselves are more powerful than words that other people tell us, because the words that other people tell us are internalized and we believe it.
Right.
And then we start to get in our own head.
Right. Absolutely.
So you're the living example that you can do, even despite of what people tell you, you can reach the stars. You can achieve your dreams. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, guys, this is Stan Richards from the Bus to the Bentley, No More Limits, with his book today, talking about his book. Are there any other projects coming up for you?
Well, again, Sharice and I started the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise movement. And we really want to, so every Saturday morning, I do a healthy walk down at Haynes Point. So, again, I really want to talk about and be about health because, you know, growing up in the hood, nobody talked about health. You know, we drink sodas, we did this, and it was just whatever. And as you get older, and especially the time that we're living in now, you know, people are getting sicker younger. People kids got diabetes, like, you know, at a very young age.
Obesity, you know, childhood obesity. Yeah. Yeah,
all of that. So we really want to tap into, you know, the psyche on food. You know, I mean, think about it. It goes back to slavery. You know, they gave us slop, pig feet, all this stuff to eat. Okay, while they ate good, and now that's what we want. We want pig feet, and we want, you know, all of this other stuff. You know, pork. That's not really good for us. We've been conditioned and trained. So I'm a living proof because I'm a foodie. I love to eat good, right? So I had to change my relationship with food. So the movement is all about changing your relationship with food.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the wealth piece, Doc, this is very important. Let me say this, and I want everybody to be very clear. You need to be a millionaire in the millennium. You need to make millions because first of all, $1 million is no money.
Mm-hmm.
Some people look at it as a lot of money, and some people look at it like Bill Gates. It's no money to him. How can these guys go on to be worth $200 billion when you're stuck at $100,000? Okay, we need to be millionaires. Period. Mm-hmm. And nobody talks about that in the Black community. Mm-hmm. Just go get your degree and then get a good job and work for 40 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. But think about all of the people that's retiring broke. Mm-hmm. And then we're taking that same mindset and we're giving it to our kids. Mm-hmm. My two sons, I teach them entrepreneurship. Both of my sons are entrepreneurs right now. Mm-hmm. My 19-year-old is a licensed insurance agent. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we need to talk about money. We need to talk about how do you make $1 million? Mm-hmm. How do you get paid in your sleep?
Right. And Stan, you do that. You coach about that. How can people hear you speak?
Oh, they can just touch me. I mean, they can message me on inbox. But you need multiple buckets. You need 5 to 7 streams of income. 2 or 3 of them need to be residual. Every billionaire get paid in millionaire. They get paid in their sleep. You know, think about it. Think about when COVID hit real quick. Okay. Think about all of those jobs that went away. Okay. They're not coming back. And people are looking for a job. When I believe that there's some good that came out of COVID, I believe that God wants us to tap into our talents. And what's your talent? How can you go out and sell? Right? And we've been trained that sales is nobody want to buy nothing. We are great consumers, right? So real quick, Doc, sales is doing something for someone and not to someone, right? And think about this. Nothing happened until something is sold. Okay. Right? I can't have this water until I buy it. Nothing happens until something is sold. So we need to condition our mind that first of all, okay, look, you know what? I need to be a millionaire because I can't help those kids in Brentwood if I'm broke, if I'm struggling. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and I have time freedom. I spend every day with my wife and kids. Right. That's why you need to be a millionaire. Mm-hmm. So the movement, healthy, wealthy, wise, and then wisdom. Once you create this wealth, then you got to be good stewards. Okay. Stop going out, buying stuff. Okay. Trying to, like the rich look poor and the poor look rich. So, you know, when we was doing the parties back in the day, you remember, I always had a custom made suit for Coco. I had the suits, the outfits, and then, you know, the Gucci, the Louis bags and all that. For what? I mean, like, I'm not knocking that. It's great stuff. But there's a time for that. Yeah. You got people driving around with Mercedes-Benz living in an apartment. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. Right.
But it's that mindset, like you said earlier. You said that, you know, what I had made me think that I was rich, or had other people think that I was rich or wealthy or had. But really, you're driving a Mercedes without being rich, or you're driving a Mercedes. So it's that mindset. It's that change in mindset that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And absolutely. If that change in mindset will promote, you know, if you change your mindset, then that will promote what I'm hearing you say. If you change your mindset, then that will promote a different type of behavior, a different type of definition as to what money is and what money can be used for, or should be used for, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same guy from around the way. I just changed the way I think. Yeah. I changed the way I see things. Right. That's it. And once I was able to do that, reprogram the subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, the universe is looking to give you anything that you want, whatever your heart desires. Mm-hmm. Give it to you. But you got to change this, right?
With the support systems around you to help you teach you how to change.
Yes.
Because it's difficult to do it by yourself.
No, you can't do nothing by yourself.
Even when you're talking about mental health, right? When you're talking about trauma, such as you talked about, and things of that sort, it's kind of difficult to achieve recovery on your own.
Right. Yeah, right. You gotta have that support, and thank God I had a great support system in my family.
Support systems, or through therapy, through community resources, right? Some type of support system to help you achieve recovery. Mm-hmm. You can't do it on your own. It's difficult.
Right.
Oh my gosh, this has been awesome. From the bus to the Bentley, no more limits. I am so excited that you were here today. Stan, how can they get your book, purchase your book?
They can get it on my website, which is stanrichardsonline.com.
stanrichardsonline.com. And I will post that information for you. We have several viewers here today. I'm going to read some of their comments. If any of you have any comments, let me know. So Paula says, or know that we are enough. Absolutely. Know that we are enough. I don't think we know that we are enough sometimes, even with these kids, and I think that inhibits growth because we don't know, we minimize our abilities and what we're capable of. But then that's because growing up, we don't really have that opportunity to see what we can be, right? Unless we have an opportunity like you and I was able to leave high school and then get a professional government job, right? But let me tell you, you got to have will and hope and a lot of stuff to motivate you to jump out there and get a job and become who you envision yourself of becoming in the future. Let me see. Thank you, Joseph. How are you, Joseph? Lynn Wojinen. Hi, Dr. Wojinen. How are you? Thank you for joining. Hi, Tanya. And so if you guys have any questions, I do have a question I do usually ask, and we're going to make this really quickly, but I want to ask this question because this is what a viewer asked me, Stan. Where is it? Okay. As a man of color, and I think I asked you this earlier, as a man of color, when did you realize you not had a voice, but that your voice could be used as a catalyst for change? And I think you answered that earlier, but this is I'm going to ask this question too before you leave. How has police shootings of Black males impacted your mental health as a Black male yourself?
It's Doc.
And that's a viewer question.
Yeah, it's really been something that we've been talking about, Sharice and I, along with my boys in my household, because I found myself having anxiety because my son is 19 years old and he's driving now. He's the second year in college. And every time he goes out to hang out, I can't sleep until he gets back home. So it has affected me, and he's gotten pulled over a few times because he has 10 on the windows with his car. And so it's something that I have been having to really, really pray about because it's very real, and I'm a coach myself, but I found myself like worrying about, okay, it's 2:00 and you're not back home yet. Where are you? Are you okay? Because of everything that has happened over the last few years with the police and Black males. And so, we've been having some great conversations here in my household with Sharice and my boys.
What are those conversations like?
Well, it's like, okay, what's your thoughts on what's happening? The questions I asked to them. And how do you supposed to react if you get pulled over? So these are conversations that we've had. Okay, what happens if you get, the police starts to talking, calling you out your name or whatever? How do you respond? And we've had these conversations over and over because I want them to come home. At the end of the day, it's too late
Yeah.
But something has happened. So no matter what, we talk about don't run, put your hands on the steering wheel, put your hands outside the car, whatever, but just do what they ask you to do. Whether you think they're right or wrong, do what they ask you to do, because I want you to, the goal is for you to come home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have those conversations here in my household, but I have found myself with a little anxiety over the last couple of years, because my 19-year-old is driving, and he's going to go back to school in August. He's taking his car with him. And then my 15-year-old getting ready to start driving too.
Yeah. And I'm glad someone asked you that, because I wanted to normalize that experience from a Black male yourself, normalize that experience of other males as well, right? I think that these events don't only affect us as a community, but I think it affects us as a society, as a nation in a whole, right? Because it causes this tension, and now we're it's like we're walking on eggshells, not knowing what to say or how to respond, not knowing how to verbalize our experiences, such as we know we're feeling something, but not knowing how to say we're angry. We're disappointed, or knowing how to put your emotions into words. I think it's important, especially for you as males, being able to express yourselves verbally, right, as opposed to aggressively. So I'm glad that you were open to talk about that, because it does help to normalize these experiences, because I think that many of us have similar experiences.
Yeah. And the key is you got to get it out. Like you got to talk about it.
Yes. And letting them promote, encourage your children to talk about it, ask your children how they feel about it, because it's all over the news. So ask your children what they feel about it. Give them an outlet to use their voice as well to you all, so that they can better communicate how they feel to other people too, even their friends.
Absolutely.
It starts with us, the parents, right? Absolutely. So is there any final comments, Stan, while we wind down?
I would just say to the audience, we're living in a time now where you have to renew your mind daily, because, it's so much coming at us, and you got to take complete control over your thoughts, renew your mind, follow your dreams and your passion, and get some accountability. People always ask me, Doc, all the time, how'd you do it? I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaching and accountability partners, to help me to hit my goals and go to the next level.
Right.
So you want to get in community with someone who you can connect with, who you can be authentic with, and tap into those dreams and goals and go for it.
Right. Okay. Excellent. This has been a really great discussion, a needed discussion. I'm glad to talk about your book, because again, I think it's powerful, and you guys want to read it. You have to read it. It tells about his story, and his story of resilience and recovery. And it definitely helped me in certain ways. And I'm glad that you were open about talking to your children, and hopefully that will help you guys about opening up discussion, initiating discussion with your children on current events as well, because you need to have those discussions. Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys are so awesome. This is Stan Richards from The Bus to the Bentley, No More Limits. His book is it on Amazon? No,
it's directly off my website, stanrichardsonline.com.
Okay, stanrichardsonline.com. Check him out. Again, this is Dr. Leslie Rogers, and until next time, I will see you then. Thanks, guys.